Hi, and welcome to The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist, the podcast where I talk to a variety of people to promote progressivism, left-wing politics, and critical thinking. Today I'm joined by Taylor McNallie, activist out of Alberta, our neighbors.
I thought this were for right wing, so I'm going to have to leave. This is not for No.
Yeah, no, definitely left-wing show.
No, I'm here for it. It's great.
I was just interviewed on another podcast, and he's kind of a centrist, the guy who interviewed me. And I said, when I talk about right-wingers on my show, I'm not fair. Like, I'm just not. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yeah, good. This should not be fair. Yeah.
So I guess a good place to start is a little bit about your background, what got you started in activism, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like for many racialized people that it kind of just becomes the life at some point, because this is things we are battling our entire lives, and eventually you just have enough and you get activated and involved. And I think right now was a really great time for that to happen during the largest civil rights movement in history, because you didn't feel alone in your actions and initiatives. There were so many people globally getting involved. So it was easy to kind of find your people, find where you were needed and what you could do. So I got involved in activism. I still don't really enjoy the word activist.
Right.
But I got involved last year, obviously after the murder of George Floyd, and protests just sparked up globally. And I'm from rural Alberta, and that's where I first experienced a lot of racism. So I felt, why not bring those conversations to rural Alberta, which sparked an interesting chain of events. And my organization was first RAR, Rural Alberta Against Racism, because we focused on rural Alberta. We've since rebranded, renamed, and focus on many issues across the country.
That's cool. Yeah. I think Saskatchewan and Alberta in the rural sense have a lot of similarities. Like I sometimes deliver mail, and one of the towns I go through, there's a person who has a Confederate flag in their window in their house. And I drive by it when I'm working that route. I drive by it every day. I'm like, one of these days I got to throw a rock at that. Like,
yes. Bring them all down. All of them.
Like, it's just ridiculous. Like,
I'm actually, I was born in Saskatoon. I moved out here when I was 10. So I've been out here since.
Okay.
But my first 10 years of life, obviously, I was very young, so I didn't notice a lot. So I felt like Saskatoon was a beautiful place. And then, of course, as an adult now, I'm like, everywhere's awful. So
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, nothing is good anywhere.
Yeah, nowhere is safe.
So I guess, obviously, the show, we talk about political philosophy a lot. So what is your political ideology?
Like I was saying before we started, I feel I don't know. Labels have never been a good place for me to begin with. I don't know where I lie. I just lie whatever feels good and feels good for people and humanity and the world in general. Yeah. Many people, of course, would say that's very left leaning, that I'm radical and an extremist. That's fine. If that's what people want to label me as because I want the best for people, then I guess that's what I am. But I've never, it's the same with religion too. I'm not a religious person. I'm spiritual. But I don't block anything out. I'm 30 years old now. So anything I hear along the way, I'm like, hey, that sounds pretty good. I'm going to explore that. And then I'll put that in my pocket, and I'm a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So
that's fair.
I'm just all over the place.
No, that's fair. Yeah. One of the things, like when it comes to religion, we used to just label that truth seeker, right? Like you're just a person who's out there looking around. With political ideology, I'm not sure what we could call it.
I almost feel it could be the same though, looking around. There's so many Again, though, there's so many different labels of ideologies popping up all of the time, right? Like even the same with religion, there was only, one main thing, or at least in the Western world, of what we thought was normal. And then now, especially as more and more people, I don't want to use the word wake up because we all know how that's being used now, but just realize how we are being played in this capitalist system that, I feel we just change over time anyway and find new ideologies or things to believe in. So. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've identified as an anarchist for quite a long time. And then, over the few years, as I read various things, I add different labels. And like right now I call myself an anarcho-communist, but also I've got, like people who are into communalism or municipalism. And like, there's these different ideologies that are very close, like with just a tiny little change one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, there's a lot of words that, even Antifa, I'm gonna be real with you. I didn't know what that word was until people in Alberta started calling me the queen of it last year. And I was like, what the fuck is Antifa? So I'm like Googling. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm Antifa. Should you not be Antifa? What is wrong here? So there's a lot of things that I'm exploring and learning about. And, I've never learned so much about communism in my life either. So it's very interesting.
I think we seem to be in like a great moment where, like you say, like with the global movements against racism and even the awakening, like you say, like against capitalism, we're in a real moment where people are like seeing at least that we don't have to just automatically support the status quo.
Absolutely. So. Exactly. Because the status quo is not good for any of us. And, COVID, I feel, although COVID is awful, although we have lost a lot of people to it, I feel it allowed us to really see just how, I don't want to say broken the systems are because they've been designed this way, but to see what they are like and how, nothing has ever been set up for the people to take care of the people. And it's like, damn, we've been screwed this whole time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, you said you were labeled the queen of Antifa. Where did that come from?
Oh, Lord. From many of the hate groups and these right-wing idiots out here. I don't want to even drop names because they are not fucking worth it. But the moment I started going out to rural communities to have these discussions, that's when we opened up a whole can of worms and people were not okay with us going into their towns. I'm like, yo, I'm from here. Literally.
This is my town.
Like this town of 400 people. Yeah, no, I live here. I lived here. So, it's been very interesting. And it's just other tactics that have been used throughout history to squash movements such as these, where the rise of the people, God forbid those most oppressed become liberated so that we can all be liberated. Oh my goodness, we're all equals? No.
You can't have that.
Can't have that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's it doesn't feed like I mean, I know there's discussions amongst various people with like reducing everything to class, but those who are powerful, they want us divided on long lines of like race and class and gender, and they want us divided so that they can just maintain their power, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. And it's so funny right now with this freedom movement of people against against lockdowns, right? And how are you out here marching for freedom while also wanting your 80-hour work week back? I'm very confused. Do you know what you're marching for?
At the start of COVID, I actually thought that we were in like this moment where we would have a community, like we'd wake up to this, like, hey, we got to take care of each other. Like, powers that be, maybe we should lobby them as a group of like general strike or whatever to get support when we need it. Cause nobody can go out. We all have to stay home. But instead, everybody's just like, oh no, I want to go to the gym and I got to go to the hairdresser.
I need to get a haircut. Oh my God. Like, Linda, you haven't cut your hair in 5 years. You don't need to go to the haircut.
And suddenly you need a haircut?
Yeah. And I feel like it would have went that way if there wasn't that aspect of an actual civil rights movement. I feel that way. I feel like we would have banded together in that way and been like, fuck the government, yes. But then we wouldn't have got to the underlying issue, which is that racial inequality, capitalism, but capitalism does stem from systemic racism. We wouldn't get to that. And so, we're doing it the hard way and we're doing it the right way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is, like you say, the right way and hard way seems to be the way that it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Which I've been talking to a friend and we talk about like, are we going to end up in like a kind of a revolution and how are people going to get hurt in this? And I mean, lots of people are being hurt now. So where do we balance that is like, I guess it's a tough question. Yeah.
I every day I wake up and think about, I can go to all of the police meetings and sit with all the government officials and we can talk this out and we can all come together and find a way to do this. And then the other half of me, the realistic, I want to say half is like, nah, we got to burn it all down. We got to start over because unfortunately these conversations and meetings have been happening for a very long time. Like the fact that the Canadian government cannot even implement the the TRC 94 calls to action or the 231 calls for justice. They can't even do that. And we think that we can just talk this out. It's not going to happen. Right. So I feel like, a civil war will and does need to happen in order for us to go to where we need to go next. And I'm here for it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in a sense, like you have to be if you want any kind of change, right? You got to be. I don't want to pretend that it's not scary. Because a lot of people are going to get hurt. But again, like when you equate that against the number of people who are being hurt now, I just don't know if it's going to be that different. Yeah, it's very true. And then if we can get a better world out of it, good. Right? Because, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if we'll see the start of that war in our lifetime or, if there will be change happen. My daughter's 10. Is she going to get to see any of the change from the work we're putting in now? Will it be my grandkids? Will we even it's a hard thing to look at and see, but it has to be done. So, yeah, that's right. I'm not promoting war on this show. Just so everybody is aware. We're speaking hypothetically. Mm-hmm. Yes. There's a cop outside my house right now. You can just chill out. Yeah. Yeah. The thing, one of the things like about that, like whether talking about it, like you say, you can go to the police meetings and the city council meetings and all this stuff. And the answer always seems to be for police, like, oh, well, they need more training. Oh, well, they need more training. And it doesn't do anything. It just makes things worse. Yeah, because they're still sitting on all of these biases. And, we know where the police stemmed from. We know how they were created. Those ideologies are still rampant within those institutions. Like our police chief here cannot even bother to get rid of a thin blue line patch from their uniforms. How can we move forward past anything if you can't even do that one tiny thing? It's so small. Honestly, they should have known, like society, I guess, should have known as soon as they were talking about things like the thin blue line, that something was really broken, right? Like of the idea that police have to protect each other from accountability. It's bizarre. It's but that's where, and speaking of propaganda, and that's where those things pop up where it's like they twist it, right? They see it as, no, this is our line of solidarity between each other because we're doing a dangerous job. And then those who have never seen police in the way racialized people have seen it, they're like, well, yeah, it's a really dangerous job. They should be using that. Like,
So then it's like, then you have to battle that, because then you still have to prove your experiences as a Black, Indigenous, brown, anybody, a type of person where we have not a good relationship with police, but then, you know, we're gaslit. Like, well, that didn't happen because I've never seen it. Like, okay, Jim. All right.
You know, white dudes, like myself, are often like that, like with everything. If it's not right in front of our faces, then we don't see it. But part of the problem now is like there's so much evidence of police brutality. Like they're literally the bad guys in every situation. And it's hard. I don't know how anybody can deny it now. Well,
you know, again, they look for everything to villainize that person, right? Like if I were to be shot today, there are at least 5 things they'd be able to pull up from my past to be like, see, she should have died. Like she was a bad person, you know, and you could dig up on anybody, you know, maybe you got suspended from school in grade 8 because you brought a joint to school. See, he's a criminal, you see, and he went through a bad life, you know, and so they villainize somebody, and make it seem like they deserved it when really that just emboldens, you know, racism. If you already don't like Black people, well, instead of just saying, yeah, I'm racist, fuck that Black dude, you're like, well, see, he's a criminal, you know. It's just
right. Yeah, I mean, I guess in a way that's how media has portrayed people of color for so like the whole time anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's why we needed to control, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I guess, why don't you tell me a little bit about your organization, Inclusive Canada?
Yeah, so Inclusive Canada, there are 3 co-founders, and then we brought on another team member. So there's me, there's an Anishinaabe woman, she's in BC, she's a teacher, she's been on the front lines doing this work for 30 years. We got an Iraqi woman, and she is also a teacher, and she is like, we call her Miss K. We cannot give her name out because some of the work she does with our organization is incredibly dangerous and amazing. And I'm just so in love with this woman. And then we have another woman who also is the founder of the Community YYC. And so we work together in so many different areas. I feel like we are trying to do a million things all at once. The first and foremost, though, is providing education, you know, in a world of misinformation and propaganda. Again, it's so important to somehow bring that education to the people. Right. Even within this anti-lockdown movement, you know, we start bringing signs that just list like, hey, Kevin J. Johnson has like all of these things, even though you can go on the first page of Google and find them. These people aren't reading shit. You just bring that and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know about that. Like we've had some people where it's like, okay, maybe I am standing on the wrong side, you know, holding events, making sure we get information out to the people on so many different issues. Right. Holding rallies, providing opportunities for youth and other racialized people. We have some big plans for this year, but we'll see how it goes on them. We are all exhausted right now.
Oh, I believe it, yeah.
I need a goddamn break. But a lot of what we've been doing lately has definitely been to counter a lot of the misinformation within this anti-lockdown movement, because in Alberta, it is rampant. We have one of them, you know, we have Kevin J. Johnson running for mayor in the city right now. I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah, didn't he said something like he's threatened people or something, and then
all of Alberta Health Services has a restraining order against, like, all of Alberta Health Services. He could walk into Walmart and there's an Alberta Health Service employee and he has to leave. Like, wow, that is where it's at. And you know, nobody is officially running for mayor. Nobody's official until September, when they have to also get vetoed in. I don't think he's going to be make it past September to begin with. But the fact that this man is out here, people are buying his signs, people, and, you know, Calgary would vote for this person. Like, that's the mentality of this province. It's sad. This province is sad.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's It's frustrating. Regina and like Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in general is like a almost a smaller microcosm of Alberta in a lot of ways. Like Chris Sky, he came to Alberta first, and then he came to Saskatchewan. And actually, the only reason I knew he had ties to like white supremacist movements is I think because I saw it on Inclusive Canada's Instagram page or something.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, and that's it. Some of the slides we post are, it's simple information that's available out there. But if like I've only just heard of Chris Sky a couple months ago when he started doing this tour. I'm like, who is this guy? And people are posting about him. It's like, unless you are looking actively for these people, if you're already in that movement, you are going to follow that. But unless you're actively looking for this information, like how would you know? So even providing that, and people just like, I had no idea. Or, when they started having tiki torch marches and nobody knew, the tiki torch itself is not a racist symbol, but how it's being used with white nationalists and hate groups, it becomes a racist symbol. And kind of connecting those two, people are like, I had no idea. Like, just providing information for the people.
Yeah, it's like Charlottesville. After Charlottesville, every guy that had that Richard Spencer haircut, if I saw him in the store, I was very suspicious.
Not gonna lie, usually for me, it's white bald men.
That's fair. That's
who
fair.
Are you? Ooh. But nah.
I have stubble. I have a little bit of stubble.
But even that in itself is sad, and that comes from a place of fear. You can relate it to people being fearful of, Black people or Indigenous people. It comes from a place of trauma, fear. I used to love bikes and bikers. I used to hang out with so many bikers. I hear a bike now, and my whole body is just filled with anxiety because we have been harassed and followed by bikers for the last year, So these are things that just get instilled into us, and still having to break through those fears and understand, not everybody. So
I have never been a bike person. I relate it to, I guess, tangential situations with the Hells Angels. I knew people who knew the Hells Angels and had to deal with them. And so I was always very suspicious of bikers.
Man, even them, though, Hells Angels, they used to be a totally different type of group. Those claiming to be Hells Angels now are just, it's not the same. Things are not the same.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of changes the last while. Like you used to be able to say, okay, this is a criminal organization, but criminal organizations fight the police and that makes them good in this way. That, they don't necessarily deal with like regular citizens, but now you've got like such a commingling. Sometimes the criminal organizations are part of the police and the police are doing these things too.
I mean, that's been a thing forever. We can stem that back to the Klan in this country. And that's another thing that my partner with Inclusive Canada will be working on with some other anti-racism activists here is putting together events to directly link those people together, and how, Klan members were police officers or are police officers, or, we still have active members here in Alberta. There were many settlements of Klan members here. And so making all those connections, even we put together this petition to take Kevin off from running. And the person in the government, in the UCP, who we have to go to, is best friends with all of these people. Like, he had to be called out in the media on like, are you friends with Artur Pawlowski? It's like, nah, I'm not. I don't know that person. It's like, really? Because we have all of these video over here of y'all being buddy-buddy. No? Okay. So it's just like, everything's just so intertwined. And, we'll look like a crazy person trying to like map them all out. But it's like, it's so necessary.
Yeah, that's one of the things that like, it on the left, or being an anti-racist, or being like a person who sees things systemically, you often sound like a conspiracy theorist. But
like, who needs conspiracy theories when like this is real life? Like,
yeah, that's right.
Let me show it to you. Yeah.
We don't have to make things up about drinking the adrenochrome from babies. We have real connections with real problems.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And I again, I try to I sympathize with some of the people getting mixed up in these anti-lockdown movements, anti-mask, whatever, because, you know, we are at our most vulnerable. And, you know, yeah, the government has been fucking us over this whole time. Welcome to the party. You know, I remember my first time when I first figured that out. And so it's so easy to get wrapped up in that and be like, yeah, we have to put a stop to this. This is not okay. But,
Right.
you know, it just gets picked up by other people who has a totally different agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Just like, man, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad there's organizations like yours out there, because a person like myself, like I can do a podcast, but honestly, without some kind of other guidance, I'm often not sure what to do or where to go even.
I think we all feel that way. It's okay. It's okay. I feel like that often. Like, I don't know. Where do we go from here? Like, I feel defeated at least 3 times a day. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this. But it's like, we have to keep going.
Got to keep doing something, right?
Yeah.
Like you say, we have kids. Everybody's got kids. So we got to make the world as good as we can.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, our kids, like, people don't want to be messing with our kids. I know if my kids got to be doing what I'm doing, everybody better watch out. I would not want to mess with her when she's 30 and having to deal with all this.
Oh, geez. Hey, yeah. Growing up in activism, that's how you get like a lot of well-known activists now who are really vilified by the right. Like Tupac Shakur's mom. Like she's considered a criminal by many people in the conservative movement, and I guess even by the U.S. state, but she's a hero to many, right?
Yeah. It's funny with things like even Martin Luther King, where the majority of white people hated that man. And then these same white people are out here like quoting him and putting on memes of him. I'm like, no. Y'all would have been the 80% of white folk who hated him and called him Antifa, probably, you know, like
that's right.
That's just anything that is so radical that betters the world for all people. You are automatically vilified. So
I guess, you have a lot of like videos of various protests and stuff. So that must be coming from a lot of members of your organization, or is that a lot of your own work?
Like just videos of in attendance, or
or like yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I especially last year, like we traveled all over Alberta. Every weekend we were in a different location. Our longest. The longest we had to drive was like a 16-hour round trip. That was to go to Grimshaw, Alberta, where a man was wearing like a pillowcase, like a Klan's hood, at the post office at like 2 p.m. Everyone's like, no, it's fine. It's just a mask. This is not a mask. This is not okay. So, you know, to me, you know, even before activism work, you know, my work is very much community based. Like I want to support everybody. I want to show up for everybody. And not just because I want people to show up for me. This is just what community does. You show up for people. So, you know, many of the things, pictures, videos I post are my own, or us being there in support and to show that solidarity. But, you know, even though it's just Inclusive Canada, like we work with so many other grassroots organizations and movements. We have a huge group of people that we work with constantly every day. You know, if we have an action or an initiative, it goes into that chat and everybody is involved. It's not just one person, one group.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost at 30 minutes. So I guess a good place to start a counter propaganda.
All right.
Is there any piece of misinformation that you feel is dominating right now, or that you have seen a lot of that you want to counter?
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about Antifa for a minute.
Sure.
Because, you know, and I bring this up because I was in the CPS commission meeting yesterday, and it's been an ongoing thing for a while, but especially recently and lately, where these what do they call it? They call it the redirect team, where they're trying to redirect youth and people out of extremist lifestyles. Okay. And they label Antifa alongside people like ISIS and the Proud Boys. Yes. And it's like, this is coming directly from the police. Like, no wonder we look like criminals. No wonder, like, and people still don't understand that Antifa is not an organization. You know, it is a network of groups and individuals who are out here promoting anti-racism, promoting anti-capitalism. And that is why it's so vilified, because it completely stops the governments, you know, from doing what they need to do to keep us going. And so they need, but it's just, it's always shocking. It never gets less shocking to hear them say that my existence of being anti-fascist is radical. But it was neat because, you know, I posted this video on my Twitter before hopping on here, and before he says it, he talks about, you know, the suffragettes movement. And he's like, you know, back then it was looked at as radical, but now we wouldn't even bat an eye at that. And I just cannot wait for the day when they look back at this and see how ridiculous they were to look at somebody, to look at the idea of anti-fascism, which is literally what Antifa means, and think that was their biggest threat. And, you know, they label extremism as, you know, people who will use violence to further their movement. And, you know, as we're talking of how to move forward in all of this, there might have to be violence. Like, look at our history. Unless people want to step up and not vilify, you know, this ideology of Antifa and just allow, you know, actually do the work. If you're committed to anti-racism, let's actually do that. Why would you say no to defunding $10 million from a $450 million budget so you can fund, you know, community services that take care of the people, you know, actually do that work so we can be better. Otherwise, that's the direction they push us into. So, you know, it's frustrating because, you know, like I said, I didn't even know what the word Antifa was until I started getting called it. And people are like, she's the queen of Antifa. I'm like, what is this? Like, and you have I had to literally Google it. And I was like, is this really, are they saying this is a bad thing? Like, aren't you, like, everyone should be Antifa. That's just like,
back in, I think it was 2015, they used to call us SJWs for social justice warrior. And I was like, wait, that's supposed to be an insult?
Like, yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how to counter that. You know, people are very stuck in their ways. That's another reason why I think, you know, our only option is towards that complete civil unrest, because we are in this space where, like, people are just so lost and stuck. Like, trying to have a conversation with somebody who it's very divided, and people like to think, you know, us as Black people, Indigenous people, that we are creating this divide, a divide that has been here for hundreds of years. And it's just even more so now, trying to have a conversation with somebody on the other side. You are literally talking to a wall. It's like, I don't know how to get through to people anymore. But yeah, I don't know how to combat that, but man, it's the most ridiculous thing.
I think I tend to think that it's because they have such a dominant, like, media presence, right? Like, even I know Ezra Levant is considered kind of a fringe dude, but he's got a huge following, right?
Yeah, and he has so many people working for him.
So he just spouts nonsense, like, and so does whatever his one buddy.
Keen?
Yeah.
Keen?
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if he's still with Rebel or if he's moved on. I'm not sure, but yeah, the thing with that is, like, there's so many independent journalists. Like, we just held a rally for abolition, and there were two of them in the crowd that we hadn't noticed, right? And so they're, like, hiding in the bushes and hiding in the back and taking video. And then, you know, a few days later, I go on Twitter and I'm, like, tagged and shit. I'm like, what? Who spends their Sunday doing this? You literally spent 3 hours following us around all day for this really shitty footage. Like, yeah. I don't. So yeah, it's hard, but that's all they have. And if they have a media source that is pumping everything they believe in, oh, they're going to love it. They're going to eat it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
John Gormley here doesn't do quite the same thing as Ezra Levant, but it's very similar. Like the same, he's ruined the critical thinking capabilities of the Saskatchewan populace for the last 20 something years.
Ugh.
Calling left-wing people reactionaries and people who are like following health guidelines, he calls them reactionaries. Like he has no idea what these words mean.
No, it's so wild. Like, you know how often I have to wear a mask? Like maybe 2 hours a week, maybe when I go grocery shopping, or if I go into the store.
Right.
Like, I don't know the whole idea of, this started because people don't want to wear a mask and they feel oppressed. And I'm just like, I cannot. Like,
well, I mean, it's pretty obvious they don't know what oppression means.
No. And it's sad because the moment these health guidelines are gone, they're out here fighting for freedom for everybody. But the moment these are gone, do you think they're going to be out marching for anybody else ever again? So this is not about freedom. No.
And I never saw any of these people protesting for Black lives, right? Or for Indigenous lives. Like this is not something they don't actually care about people. They care about inconvenience.
Yes, exactly. And racism. They want to uphold that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Accountability.ab.ca on Instagram.
Yes, everybody go to that page, report the shit out of it, get it off. I haven't looked back on it for a while, so I don't know what they're up to now. But it started out as like this page to share more things about the UCP, about these anti-lockdown people. It's a white-led page. Obviously, somebody... It's hard because there's some anarchists out here who have been doing this work for a very long time. They have connections with people, with anti-racism activists, but they still end up centering themselves instead of still listening to racialized people and what our needs are.
Right.
But essentially, we had organized a counter protest in Edmonton, and a couple of the people there were not happy we were doing that, and it turned into this big blowout that we were not listening to the people, even though we worked with so many organizations on that. And then they went for months just trying to dox me and dox eight other of our members, just put us on blast, and it's like, while you're saying you are for Black lives, you have Black Lives Matter in your bio, and you're literally doxing Black activists out here who are already afraid for their lives, who are already too scared to leave their homes, and you are spending your time doxing activists. Like, do you know what that looks like on you? So,
yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah, it was not good. So that page, just shut it down. And
sounds good.
And then, of course, the regular suspects, Pat King and Kevin Johnston and Artur Pawlowski and whoever else out there that is just trash.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good list of foes.
Yeah.
All right. And how about comrades? We've got, you've got quite a list here.
Yeah. You have the list. You read them because I'll forget names.
Bear Clan.
Yeah.
Lloydminster and Vermilion for Equity, the Community YYC, Water Warriors YEG, BLM YYC, and Defund 2 Fund, and Native Calgarian.
Yes, and I'm probably still missing so many. Anti-racism action. I know there's a few different pages, but I believe they go under anti-racism action here. They are another, they're another group out here that have been doing this work for a very long time, and I respect them and looked up to them a lot. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we got a little bit of time left, so I wanted to ask you about your opinion on defunding police and abolition. Like, what do you think the goal, or not the goals necessarily, but the method to get to abolition is?
Number one is defund. So you have to take money from these police institutions and give them to grassroots organizations, grassroots movements who are already doing this work. So, for example, like Bear Clan Calgary, they are in Edmonton and Winnipeg and Lethbridge and a few other places, but they are Indigenous led, and they completely volunteer their time, dedicate their entire lives to being those people, first responders on the ground, basically. So they are out giving food to the people, the unhoused community, those most vulnerable. They help those with addiction issues. They bring the Noxalone kits with them and have to deal with that. They are, trained in de-escalation. And because they are not in uniform and they're not police, people are not scared of them on the street. Sex workers, they're the first people they call. If you see an unhoused community member, passed out in the snow, you can call them. They are out there taking care of the people. They're not a registered organization. I don't know if that's because, being a registered organization is part of colonialism hugely, especially when you are applying for it. But, they rely on community donations, whether that's monetarily or with, clothing, food, all of that. Why not give them some money to do their work that is obviously working? Because the CPS themselves have approached them to be like, how is what you're doing working? And every time we go out, we hurt people, if you have to go to them to, wondering how to do your job, just give them the money. They're out here doing the work anyway. Yeah. That's within community safety, and then harm reduction and queer community support and disability discrimination. Like, there's so many areas. We are supposed to be taking care of each other and looking out for one another. And we need those resources to do so. And, CPS, I think they ended up defunding $8 million themselves. Nobody knows where that money has gone. Most of us found out 2 weeks before the applications closed that it was even available. And then, of course, only if you were registered could you apply. So it's a lot of nonprofits that still have a lot of anti-Black racism, a lot of systemic racism running rampant in their institutions anyway. So, yeah. So, yes.
It's like you say, like the whole act of registering, for an Indigenous organization, an Indigenous-led organization, the idea of registering under a colonial government seems pretty counterintuitive to me.
Right? Yeah. Let me just keep paying taxes to you as you kill my people and take my land and all of these things. No. So, the first step is defunding and funding. I like to say defund the police to refund our communities, because as great as it would be to just have the police gone tomorrow, you have to have those structures in place first that would replace them. And they have to be, it's not something that it happens overnight. This is going to take a long period of time because we have relied on police for everything for so long. Yeah. And disarm for sure. And slowly get into a place where grassroots structures and organizations are taking care of the people, and we get rid of police. They're not needed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just posted a whole bunch of links for somebody on Reddit because they asked, what is the logic behind this defunding the police thing? And I was like, well, here's a bunch of resources.
Hopefully they read them. Like, shit.
Yeah, hopefully. But then their next comment said, I'll try to get to those right away or as soon as I can. But what about this thing where people want to take away the body armor from police? Because that doesn't seem logical to me. And I'm like, well, if they don't have guns, if they don't have body armor, then they're not going to be as violent with the random homeless person that they need, that they're dealing with. Because most of the situations they're dealing with aren't armed conflict with drug cartels. Right?
No, it is not. It is not. And even then, I think people are so used to looking at the surface level issue, right? So you see a gang that is very violent and they need to be controlled. Okay, but why not? Where's the prevention and intervention on the way there? Yeah. And that is meaning dealing with, I don't want to use the word dealing with, but, having structures in place to help children in unhealthy home situations, and stop that intergenerational trauma from happening. Make sure people are not growing up and living in poverty. Make sure, when people are happy and their needs are met and they don't have to do things that are illegal in order to get by in life, and then find them doing things that maybe they probably wouldn't. Like there's just so many steps that need to be taken to ensure the happiness or the well-being of somebody so that they can have a chance in life. Yeah. And even just mental health support in general to deal with trauma, to deal with the things they're going through. There's a lot of things.
Yeah. Having police deal with everything just turns everybody into a criminal, right? Like,
yes.
Like you say, unhoused people become criminals. Drug addicted people become criminals. A person who happens to have too much to drink that night becomes a criminal because they fall asleep on a bench, right? Like the police aren't solving anything. They just turn everybody into a criminal.
And coming from, again, a rural community where everybody drinks and drives. Everybody drank. Everybody drove afterwards. We always had the one person who he would fucking drink all night, but he was the only person who could drive in a straight line. Like that was our driver. I was 13 years old. He was maybe 16, 17. Like this was just normal. But people forget those things because like if they were to have been pulled over, get a DUI, something that could have ruined many things for them over a long period of time. But because that didn't happen, they're not criminals. Meanwhile, somebody else in a similar situation, but then, if their lifestyle is a little bit different or something, like it's just, there's just so many double standards around it, and people are being labeled criminals for no goddamn reason.
Well, and like you say, a lot of times those double standards depend on the color of a person's skin too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, where can people find your content?
You can find me, Taylor McNallie. It's almost everything. Taylor Made YYC on Twitter. And then Inclusive Canada on everything as well. So
perfect.
I have like a Linktree with so many link trees within that Linktree because there's a lot going on.
Nice. Yeah. I tried, I have an outro script for the end of the show that I pre-record. And I tried to put my Linktree into it, but every time I kept trying to say, and you can find all my content at link.tr.ee.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. Yeah, no.
But, yeah. I'll post that in the show notes so that everybody can.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time. And I guess unless there's something else you want to mention, then that'll be it.
I think that's it. No, awesome. Everybody wear a goddamn mask, and systemic racism is real. That's it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. That's all, folks. Thanks for watching and or listening. Remember to share this show with your friends and on the social media site that you use the most. I want to say thank you again to everyone who supports this show on Patreon. It's really appreciated, and it helps me spend more time on this and my other projects when I'm not at work so that I don't have to work as many gig hours. If you want to contribute, you can do that at patreon.com/skepticalleftist, or you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/skepticallefty. If you can't contribute financially, then a 5-star rating and a review on your podcast app of choice or one of the podcast review sites like Podchaser would be great. If you want to find more from me, then you can check out the show notes or check my Linktree. That's linktr.ee/skepticalcorey. You can find all my social media stuff there, as well as links to my other shows, which include Skeptarchy, which is a panel show I do with some very smart people. For Many People's Strength, which is a show about Saskatchewan politics, and a new project I'm involved in that's called the Atheist, Humanist, Leftist, Revolutionaries with my friend Damien Marie at Hope. My Twitter is @SkepticalLefty, and my Facebook page is The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist. or you can send me a friend request, which is facebook.com/cjbrainstorm. I accept most friend requests. You can also email me at mindofaskepticalleftist@gmail.com. And if you want to be a guest on the show or know someone I should reach out to, then feel free to let me know. You can book interviews in my available time slots on my Calendly, which you can find on my Linktree. Thanks so much for listening, and let's just all try to be kind to other leftists and to all people, and even if we think they're wrong. The battle that we are fighting is an uphill one and has many obstacles, and we will need all the comrades we can get.